Welcome to The Sideshow. All right, welcome everybody to another episode of The Sideshow. And for this episode, Mark is going to be taking the lead. So, Mark, why don't you tell everybody what we're talking about today?
Hey, thanks, Mike. Today, we're going to go back to the early 70s and take a look at Jim Croce's I Got a Name album. And Jim Croce was a really kind of unique and interesting songwriter. And you can really put his songs more in a class of storytelling than rock and roll or other types of genres. I mean, if you think about an artist like, say, Gordon Lightfoot, right, another storyteller, right? Great stories that were a part of the music, and Jim Croce certainly was the same. Very similar, kind of simple background, a lot of just acoustic guitar in the background, and then telling stories. I think that Jim Croce tended to tell more humorous stories than Gordon Lightfoot did, but also some very serious tunes and ballads as well. But I Got a Name was, really when he was kind of, hitting his stride as a musician and success. And tragically, right at the same time that he died in a plane crash. So, normally we like to start with the beginning with musicians when we're giving a little bit of background, but I'm actually going to start at the end with Jim Croce. On September 20th of 1973, Jim and his band and road manager and that type of thing were leaving a concert in Louisiana. And they were taking off, late at night after the concert in a small plane heading from Louisiana to Sherman, Texas. And very shortly after takeoff, the plane crashed, and everybody on board died. Now, the timing of this, it was a tragedy just period. But, what makes this even more of a tragedy is truly Jim Croce had just really made it to the big time when this had occurred. The success of two previous albums that had a number of singles that most people are very familiar with now, songs like "You Don't Mess Around with Jim" and that type of thing, were really getting traction. And one of the tunes, actually the title tune from this album, was actually selected as the theme song for a popular movie at the time. The Last American Hero was the theme song "I Got a Name" was used at that, which raised its popularity. And Jim Croce had just completed a couple of national television broadcasts from this newfound fame. In fact, the Midnight Special, which was a very popular musical performance television show in the early 70s, he had just appeared on that like 6 days before his death. And the single for "I Got a Name" was actually released the day after his death. I mean, he had just reached the peak where he was getting this national notoriety, and he'd had a growing fan base for a long time. This was like his fifth album. And here it is, right as he is hitting his stride as a songwriter, as a musician, both critically and commercially successful. He dies in this tragic plane crash. So, we hear a lot about musicians, especially plane crashes or other types of things. Maybe it's an overdose, maybe it's something else, but really kind of a shame that they've lost it when they're on top. But I mean, Jim had just gotten there after years of working slowly as a songwriter and as a musician, little steps, making his way farther and farther up commercially, critically, and growing a fan base. And right as he made it to the top, right as this album was about to be released, he tragically died. So the album itself was released posthumously. He died in the end of 1973. This album was actually released just a couple months later. He just finished the recording of the last songs only a week earlier. So I mean, this is all right in this time frame that this had occurred. So not only a tragedy in the life of him and his family, but musically, someone who probably had a lot more to give to the world of music and to his fans and his listeners. And as we check out some of these songs today, you'll find out. I mean, Jim was entertaining. His stories had not only musically were they very good, but they were amazing stories as well. So I'm really looking forward to digging into some of this music, especially for those who haven't listened to a lot of Jim Croce before.
Well, when Jim Croce was big on the radio, which was really right about this time.
Yeah.
Like as you say, I mean, he was hitting the big time basically contemporaneously with his untimely death. And I mean, it was all before we started buying albums, before going to the store and buying albums or whatever, Jim Croce was something that was well into my musical consciousness.
Yeah.
Just by riding around in the car with the radio on, you were going to become familiar with Jim Croce.
Yes.
Back in those days. I mean, there's no question about that. I mean, just the songs that you can name off the top of your head. A lot of ballads, some of which were, kind of leaned towards the sentimental. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these sort of funner, tall tales that he told in the story songs. And, like Bad Leroy Brown and, Don't Mess Around with Jim.
Yeah.
Working at the Car Wash Blues, which is on this album, on this side that we're going to talk about today. And and then the ballads, I Got a Name, New York's Not My Home, Photographs and Memory, Time in a Bottle, Operator. Mm-hmm. He had and then he had just and stuff in between, more somber ballads. There was always, you see pictures of him, and he had a smile in most of them. He wasn't necessarily smiling all the time, but he had this sort of toothy smile, and with that sort of good timey mustache that he had.
Yep.
It was music that made you want to smile, and for the most part, and some of the ballads, you might get wistful, or even they might even be a little syrupy, to some extent. But it was always, there was a good side of life. It was making the best of things. And it really is tragic. This isn't a very good musical comparison necessarily, but in terms of the timing of his untimely death, he has similarities to Otis Redding, mm-hmm. who had kind of established himself as a very talented, very capable performer. One of the high points of the Monterey Pop Festival in 1967 and whatnot, mm-hmm. and the single "Sitting on the Dock of the Bay" was really the first real big crossover, they might call it, success. Mm-hmm. And then next thing you know, he dies in a plane crash.
Yep.
As I don't know what age either Jim Croce or Otis Redding were specifically when they died, but they were young men, either still in their 20s.
Jim Croce was 30. He was 30 when he when he died.
That neck of the woods. I mean, late 20s, early 30s, and and I think Otis Redding was more of a critic's darling than Jim Croce was to a certain extent. But critics didn't give Jim Croce it's not that they didn't like his music, they regarded him as maybe a little fluffier perhaps, mm-hmm. More AM oriented and stuff like that. But so what? It's
Well,
I mean I will always I have fond memories of hearing Jim Croce on the radio, and I've always had some Jim Croce around to listen to, because it's worthwhile, the stuff that you heard on the radio, and a lot of the stuff that you didn't were it was good stuff.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
Because of the way, a very clear vocal style made it very easy to get a hang of what he was saying and then sing along. There's people that grew up during that time. If you just come up to them on the street and it's like, can you sing a little bit of Bad Bad Leroy Brown? They probably can.
It's like, here, finish this line. You go south side of Chicago.
Yep. The baddest part of town.
And if you go down there, you'd better just beware
of a man named Leroy Brown. Leroy Brown, exactly. And, people that never owned a Jim Croce album can probably rattle off a few lines of that song. And, and I think another aspect of, not necessarily being such a critical darling that you talked about was people just hadn't given it a listen to. It really was his death that drew the most attention, just as he was kind of getting a couple hits going. In fact, his previous album after he died ended up, because that had the song Time in a Bottle on it. And, of course, very sentimental, and, the fact that he died, and it just became kind of appropriate that got released as a single and shot up the charts. His previous album began to sell, even though his I Got a Name was a new one. So, you kind of had these competing songs and stuff that suddenly began to sell really well. And I think that, again, kind of a shame that his death brought a lot of broader attention to his music. And he'd been doing it for a while. He went to, he graduated from high school in 1960 and then went to Villanova for college. Spent about 5 years there. He graduated from college in 1965. And then he really, starting with, stuff that he'd done in school, he wanted to be a musician. He kind of gave it serious efforts and then not. Worked a lot of odd jobs trying to figure out how he was going to do this. He got married, kind of gave it up for a little while, kind of that whole let's adult here for a little while, but then wanted to get back into it. So kind of a lot of back and forth. He released his first real album with his wife, Ingrid, and, the album was entitled Jim and Ingrid Croce, not overly successful. And then Jim started to get a little bit more focused as he began to come in contact with more, serious musicians and producers and that type of thing. And actually was, again, talking about maybe backing away from music right before he had died, because as he was getting successful, more touring, more occasions, more time away from home that he didn't particularly enjoy. He probably was a person who liked songwriting more than song performing. You could just kind of see him sitting in his living room with a guitar on his, writing songs and jotting things down in his notebook and that type of thing was probably how he enjoyed it the most. But what we're left with is, yes, some very interesting and entertaining songs, from his earlier work, and this was his last album. They did put there was some compilations and some other unreleased material that subsequently came out after his death. But this most people regard as when he was at the top of his game. Number of hits on the album, and really has got some good material to work with, which we'll be talking about today.
Yeah, well, and for someone now that wanted to kind of explore his music, going out and buying the individual albums that were released in the early 70s. At this point now, it's probably not the way to go, because there are a lot of I've got a 2 CD sort of greatest hits package called the 50th anniversary collection, and it's got 2 CDs worth of music, chock full, going back to the earlier material when he was performing with his wife, through all of the rest of his career, really.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, all 5 of the songs on side 1 of this album are on this collection.
Yeah.
So it's pretty comprehensive, and if you really want to, and even you don't necessarily need a 2 CD collection if you want to get the picture of Jim Croce, because just the stuff that was a relatively decent hit on that made it onto the radio could fill, a single CD collection.
Oh, absolutely.
Of music. I mean, it's but this is a very representative, I think, side of music from Jim Croce that covers a lot of the kinds of songs that he did, and so is arguably, in terms of his original output when he was still actually recording before he died, this is as good a representation as you're going to get. Yeah,
and there's also some other material out there for people that are interested in checking out a little bit more. There's on YouTube you can find his performance of the song "I Got a Name" on the Midnight Special. You can, just search on YouTube, Jim Croce, "I Got a Name" Midnight Special, and you'll find it. It is not lip synced. It's a live performance. Him, there's another guitar player and a keyboard player, and you can tell it's not lip sync because it's slightly different. It's missing some of the backing strings and other types of production stuff from his song. But it's a live performance. Interesting to watch him do that. Again, it was recorded just a couple days before he died. So, very interesting for people that are, looking to get a little bit more into this. But I have the album here. Another thing, Mike talked a little bit about his look, right? His kind of a smile and this, some very 70s hair and kind of that porn star mustache that he has. He also was smoking in a lot of pictures that people have with him, either a cigar or a cigarette. I think he was smoking on the Photographs and Memories Greatest Hits album as well. Anyway, so he clearly is right in the middle of an exhale on this one. This is the front of the album, and then we have the back of the album with just some song information, another picture of him, smile on his face, as you often saw in pictures and on the album covers for Jim Croce, and just the way that he approached, as we'll talk about on some of these songs, some of the self-deprecating kind of humor that he had. There was certainly within his music, he liked to, definitely some somber topics through his ballads, but had a lot of fun with some of these things in his music as well.
Well, the vibe that he put out was more good timey than anything else, and that music was you were supposed to feel good, ultimately, or to, if you were feeling bad, how can you put a positive spin on it? Yeah, or whatever. I mean, and another singer-songwriter from that same era, who I enjoy, is John Prine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
absolutely,
but a much different vibe from those two musicians, and and when you just look at the pictures of John Prine, from his first album, it's a fairly nondescript picture. He certainly doesn't have that toothy smile.
Yeah.
And by the time you get to there's an album, I can't remember the name of the title, with John Prine, but he's like sitting in a convertible car with some cowboy booted feet, sort of, crossed up on the door, with a pair of sunglasses, looking hungover with kind of a fuck you sort of look on his face, smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking John Prine's music or his attitude, because I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
But very different.
Yes.
Very different than Jim Croce is the point I'm trying to make. And it's it's ironic that such a good timey person, it's not really ironic, that's not the right word, but it's unfortunate, it's tragic that that someone who just with that much positivity coming out of most of where they were coming from was the one that that ended up passing away.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, let's get into this. Let's dive in. We're doing side one of this album, and it actually starts out with the title song, "I Got a Name." Now, this is a little bit unusual. This song was not actually written by Jim Croce. He wrote almost all of his material, and it was kind of unusual that we've got a song included, especially the title song from the album, that he didn't write. Now, and the reason for that was it was this soundtrack song. It was actually written by Charles Fox and Norman Gimbel. These were people that wrote a lot of soundtrack music. And they'd written some other popular hits as well, but they were probably enlisted by the studio to write this. They
were more of a Tin Pan Alley type songwriter.
Yes, exactly. So, but they clearly wanted the type of style and whatever that Jim Croce had. So, with the release of this movie, it actually came before the release of the album. I'm sure that's why they titled. You get the record companies involved for the popularity of the song. And it was scheduled for release as the first single, and it actually was released the day after he died. So again, the only song that we're going to be listening to that wasn't written by Jim Croce or Jim Croce and his wife. But it's an excellent song. I Got a Name. And let's just listen to the beginning of it, and then we'll talk a little bit about the song on the other side.
All right.
Like the pine trees lining the winding road, I've got a name, I've got a name. Like the singing bird and the croaking toad, I've got a name, I've got a name. And I carry it with me like my daddy did, but I'm living the dream that he kept here. Moving me down the highway, rolling me down the highway, moving ahead so life won't pass me by. Like a north wind whistling down the sky, I've got a song, I've got a song. Like the whippoorwill and the babies cry, I've got a song, I've got a song. And I carry it with me and I sing it loud. If it gets me nowhere, I go there proud. Moving me down the highway.
Okay, so it's got to feel that you can feel the movement in the song, and you can feel you hear it in the lyrics about moving me down the highway, rolling me down the highway. It's got a feel for moving forward, and you can hear in the words about just the song is about pride, someone who is proud of themselves and proud of what they were doing, and proud of moving forward in their lives. And although some people dissect some of the lyrics, I think a little bit more than they should. I actually like the way that it starts, right? Like the pine trees lining the winding road. And what I picture then immediately, right? Mike and I are both from Wisconsin. The North Woods of Wisconsin, when you are driving down the road, it is pine trees passing by you. And that's just the vision I get right away, is I am moving down this road, the pine trees lining a winding road, and he right away says, "Look, I've got a name." Is where he starts, and this song kind of, the first verse he talks about his name, the second verse he talks about that he's got a song, and the third verse talks about the fact that he's got a dream. And all of it though is really focused on a pride that each of these things he's proud of. He's proud of his name. He's proud of the song that he's singing or what he's doing at this time, and he's proud of his dream, where he's going in his life. And the song has just an amazingly positive feel as you listen to it. And some people, I think I have said on previous recordings, this song got me through a very difficult breakup when I was in junior high school. For as difficult as junior high school breakups can be, this one just was a song that I could put on and I felt better, right? Just by listening to the song. So always have loved it.
Well, and I can recall hearing this song, from back when we were still really kids.
Yeah.
On the one hand, you take just the lyric by itself, I got a name. Mm-hmm. On the one hand, it can be like, okay, well, yeah, so what? Welcome to the club. But I think that when you say that this song is about the pride that the singer feels, I think it's a good word, mm-hmm. and a good way of describing it. And I can remember, going back to just hearing it on the radio as a kid, what's he singing about? I got a name, and it was, I had a reaction to the song, something like, this guy there is a desire to self-actualize. Mm-hmm. Now, there was nothing that went through my mind when I was a kid that sounded anything like self-actualization or that kind of nonsense, but it was something that later in life I would have described that way.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really this is someone who likes who they are, who feels that he's worthy of success, and is going to be able to. He's going to take his name and his song and his dream and actualize. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just that's the sort of moving me down the highway, rolling me down the highway, moving ahead so life won't pass me by.
Yeah,
I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to be sitting and moping around. I'm going to be moving down the road.
Yeah.
And it is a song that makes you think that if you keep on trucking, the world will turn.
Yeah.
And it's positivity.
Yeah.
It is it just sort of flows through this song, like it does a lot of Jim Croce's songs. But it's a great opener of any album because it's a great song.
Yeah, and there aren't a whole lot of twists and turns in the story or in the lyrics. It's very understandable the way that it's sung. There's not you can understand what he's talking about. Again, his whole style of singing is very, storytelling like. There's 2 points within here that I find very, very impactful. In the segment that we heard, he said, that as far as when he's talking about his name, that he'll carry it with him like my dad. I'll carry it with me like my daddy did, but I'm living the dream that he kept hid. So, it's like I'm living my dream, and it's really the same dream that my dad had, but he either wasn't able to live it, or he kept it hid because for whatever he felt embarrassed about it. Whatever it was. But I'm living the dream that my dad couldn't. And I find that just very impactful, how generationally you're able to, pick up the torch and do something that your dad couldn't. And that has always stuck with me. And the other thing within here was when he's talking about his song, that and I carry it with me and I sing it loud. If it gets me nowhere, I'll go there proud. And, it's like, look, this might not work, right? Nobody's going to promise me that I'm going to get all these things that I'm working for, that I'm going to get all these things that I'm dreaming of. But if I don't get to it, I'll be proud of what I did along the way. And again, just really, really impactful. You can work to fulfill your dreams, but that's really where the fun is and the joy, right? It's the journey in getting there. No one's promising you're going to get them, but they are promising you the opportunity, right, to do it. And both those two parts of the song have always really, really stuck with me as I listen to it.
Well, and there's a lot going on in the two parts of the song you're talking about. I mean, in certainly, the passing the torch or the passing the baton, from that my dad did better than my grandpa, and I'm going to do better than my dad, and our son is going to do better than we have, or our children. Yeah, I mean that's a very simple, universal, feeling that members of a family have, and kind of having things get better for everyone as time goes by. And as far as, the dream that he kept hid, I mean, John Lennon once said that life is what happens when you're busy making other plans.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's sort of, and then moving up to the, if it gets me nowhere, I'll go there proud. Now, there's kind of a balance between, chasing illusory dreams and chasing what I'll call an actual dream, meaning something that's reasonably possible.
Yeah.
And kind of balancing if someone follows their head all the time and never their heart, or vice versa, that can be kind of a recipe for maybe not trouble, but dissatisfaction.
Yeah.
Whereas finding the balance between those things is the way to thread the needle towards actualization and sort of achieving those goals. Because even though the singer's father didn't kept it hid, he did carry it with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, and was able to raise the family and provide for the children and give them that opportunity, which is in and of itself a success in life.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's complexity there.
Yeah.
And you say that people maybe read more into it than there is, but there's a lot there. I mean, using simple words to get at things that aren't so simple on their face. And, the last verse, I know I could share it if you want me to. If you're going my way, I'll go with you.
Yeah.
It's sort of a very, let's do this together. But, if you want me to.
If you're going my way.
Yeah. And very simple, sort of inviting, but not too in your face. Yeah. And if if you got other things, if you got other plans, well, good luck. I'm going this way.
So, we've talked a lot, throughout here. Again, there is some complexity in there, but I mean, this is about, positivity. This is about, pride. This is about, a positive direction. And the music that is going along with these lyrics totally supports that. It's got a very quick, smooth, positive feel in the music behind it through the entire song. So what ends up happening, this comes together is just a great, very positive, foot tapping, smile on your face type song to get us started on this side.
Yeah. Great song. Great song.
So we start out with that, and then we, as most good sides do, we switch gears right away, because our second song is a ballad, and it's also one that isn't really leading us to a happy ending. The second song on the side is called Lover's Cross. And, this is about someone who is in a relationship that isn't going well. It appears that, the speaker's partner is asking or expecting things of the singer that they either don't want to do or can't do. And it's becoming clear that the relationship is not going to work, and the singer is saying, I'm not going to do that. So let's listen to the song. We'll listen to the start of the song and the the first verse or two, and then we'll talk a little bit more with it after we've gotten a feel for how it moves forward.
Sounds good.
You said it was bound to happen. It's just a matter of time. Now I've come to my decision, and it's one of the painful kind. 'Cause now it seems that you wanted a martyr. Just a regular guy wouldn't do. But baby, I can't hang upon no lover's cross for you. You really gotta hand it to you, 'cause girl, you really tried. But for every time that we spent laughing, there were 2 times that I cried. And you were trying to make me your martyr, and that's the one thing I just couldn't do. 'Cause baby, I can't hang upon no lover's cross for you.
Okay, he starts right out at the beginning of this with, guess that it was bound to happen. It's just a matter of time. But now I've come to my decision. So he's decided, and it's one of the painful kind. So he goes throughout the lyrics, kind of explaining a couple things that in his song storytelling way, that the types of things that I'm being asked to do, and ultimately he's not going to hang on a lover's cross for you. Is so speaking directly to whether it's his love, his partner, his girlfriend, whatever it is, speaking directly to them, just saying, I am not going to do this. And so we're talking about, this is a song about ending a relationship, but I think that, most would argue ending a relationship for a very valid reason. And to not end it would potentially end up with more misery for both sides.
Well, and, one point of reference might be, Bob Dylan's song, It Ain't Me, Babe, mm-hmm. where there's a decisiveness on the part of the singer. It's like, look, you and me, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not the one you want, babe. I'm not the one you need. Now, Dylan's a little more, he casts a little more blame than Jim does here. Although saying I can't hang upon no lover's cross for you it's pretty straightforward.
Oh yeah.
It's like you're asking way too much of me.
Yeah.
And although it has a gentler feel to it. But that's the reference that I take. I mean, that's a sentiment that's being conveyed.
I do, and there's also, it's in there, and we heard a little bit of it in that piece there. I mean, he wishes her well. He says, I hope that you can find another who could take what I could not. He'll have to be a super guy or maybe a super god, right? So I mean, kind of like you got a high bar to deal with, but he's hoping. Look, I hope you can find someone that could whether it be make the changes or do the things that I was unwilling or unable to do. So it sounds like I wish you well out of this, but I'm done. I'm out. Is what is, and not leaving a whole lot of room for if you can do this or if you can do this. It sounds like the decision has been made.
Well, and the bridge chorus in this song, if you actually carefully parse out the lyrics, it's pretty a little more straightforward than I'm suggesting, or that I have so far about this song. But because tables are meant for turning, and people are bound to change, and bridges are meant for burning, when the people and memories they join aren't the same.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's when because when people get off the same page, severing ties is sometimes the only healthy option for both.
Yeah, and I mean that's a good example of there's some very well done lyrics here. I mean, again, if you're going to be a storyteller, you've got to have a certain poet to you as you're putting these lyrics down. It's gotta come out clearly, but that doesn't mean that you can't use some very clever wording to describe what's going on. And I think that he does it here. Again, done in a way very easy to understand, what he's saying. And ultimately, find yourself humming and singing along to the music. It's a simple style, but it creates a very beautiful and ultimately a sad song about the end. But with some optimism for both the person to free themselves of what they're feeling here, and again, good luck to wishes of good luck for for the partner who's going to be single for a little while.
Yeah. No, it's a very different song from the opener. But
absolutely, switching gears, and actually, as we move to the third song, we're gonna switch gears again. And this third song, though, this is to me, this is your typical Jim Croce song, right? It's you can picture a person, and there's some more instruments that are in there, but it's really led by the acoustic guitar. You can picture someone strumming an acoustic guitar, maybe tapping on it from time to time to get a feel. And then you're going to talk about someone in either a difficult or unusual situation. And this one is called 5 Short Minutes, right? The third song on the album. And just to summarize, we'll hear it in a second, but the 5 short minutes that Jim is talking about is he's not overplaying his prowess as a lover here. He's going to spend 5 short minutes with a girl who it turns out might have been underage, and those 5 minutes are going to cost him 20 years in the can. So this is a serious subject, but Jim has just got a way of playing this out again, very self-deprecating, kind of I wasn't thinking. And finds himself. So let's listen to this song, right? He sets it up right in the beginning of the song and kind of gets us to the heart of the matter fairly quickly, and then we'll kind of talk a little bit more on the other side.
Fair enough.
But she was standing by my dressing room after the show, asked me for my autograph and asked if she could go back to my motel room, but the rest is just a tragic tale. Because 5 short minutes of love done brought me 20 long years in jail. Feel like a fool in a hurry, I took her to my room. She casted me in plaster while I sang her a tune.
Okay, there you have it. I mean, he starts right out kind of like, I'm wrapping up my show, and this girl was kind of knocking on my door, so what the hell? And then finds himself that 5 short minutes 11 is going to land me in the can for 20 years. And again, obviously this is a serious topic, but it's more in the frame of like the one flew over the cuckoo's nest. It's like, yeah, well, she told me she was 18, and looked more like she was 21, type
No,
thing. I mean,
she was
this is not
50. She was
yeah.
15 going on 35.
Exactly. So, I mean, we're not trying to glamorize a child predator here, right? This is someone who just thinks they've got a groupie or something like that that's coming after him as a singer, and it lands him in some trouble. And
Well,
he's got a way of just kind of talking and singing through these things where it's just kind of like, oh man, right? what did I do this time?
well, and I think part of I think there is some legitimacy to the good timey nature of this song, because in the second verse, where like a fool in a hurry, I took her to my room. She casted me in plaster while I sang her a tune. I mean, there was I believe, I've certainly read about a group of groupies in the 60s who, what they did was they would take like plaster of Paris, and they would make they would make a form so that they could display kind of like a sculpture of various rock stars' penises. And so what they take the plaster and they'd put it around the rock star's
Yep.
member, and then they'd be able to make like a plaster, like recreate it, like they make the they make the little model of your teeth, kind of like that. And so I think that lyric clearly said this was a motivated groupie that I was dealing with. And there, we talked about Frank Zappa on a previous podcast, and whatever one can say about groupies or the sort of rock stars that would allow groupies to come into their scene, it's real. It happened. It was something that there were young women who made it their business to do what they needed to do to get what they wanted, which was to be able to hang out with rock stars and then display their trophy afterwards. Now, they as he learned in this case, didn't matter. Judge didn't care about that. And which brings me to a second point about this particular song. Before I retired, in fact, at the very beginning of my career, I was a public defender. I worked full time as a staff attorney in a local public defender's office here in northern Wisconsin. And basically what me and my colleagues had to do in that role was take the hand that our clients had dealt themselves and try to play it like a winning hand. And most of us know what it's like trying to play a dead bang loser of a hand as if it were a winning hand. And one of the things that we used to talk about was there's so many songs that are perfect for our clients. And as it so happens, there's two of those songs on this side with Jim Croce, and this one is one of them. It's, you get some 19-year-old, I've had to deal with a situation in real life. Some 19-year-old guy ends up having a sexual encounter with a 15-year-old and they were kind of running in the same social circles, and there was no force used or any kind of coercion or lack of consent, but don't matter. It's like, oh, well, if this and that, well, there's a difference
Law
between.
Is pretty clear.
There's a difference between a sentencing argument and a I didn't do it argument, and you're talking about the former, not the latter. And this and it's not necessarily, it's not a good timey situation when you're dealing with those sort of things in reality, but I think for purposes of a mature singer who should have known, who just, I should have known. And that's kind of that's more the sentiment here, you know?
Yeah.
Like a fool in a hurry, I took her to my room.
Yeah.
And like a fool.
I mean, the Jim in a number of his songs has a way of kind of, again, just portraying the down and out kind of guy, but with, you know, he's got a little, you know, it's like, shouldn't have done that kind of look, and probably starting to make plans for 20 years from now when he gets out of the slammer.
Like, even if I don't get there, I'll still be singing it proud.
Exactly, you know, I mean, exactly. This becomes a little diversion as well. So again, kind of a, you know, an interesting, but this is a Jim Croce song. Singing about life. This is a particularly difficult situation, but you know, it puts this song together, and it's an entertaining listen about someone in a difficult situation, and Jim Croce just does it well.
Well, and a young man, you know, listening to this song in the early 70s, could potentially take
Learn
the message.
Something.
Yeah, you know, maybe you ought to be a little more careful about those things.
Yep.
Which is actually very sage advice.
Exactly. It's 5 short minutes that can land you with 20 years. Yes, a very good message for a lot of people to listen to. So, you know, again, but the tone of the song, much more quicker song, much more upbeat, or toe tapping type song. So, you know, and we're actually, as we move into our 4th song, which is called Age, we're going to shift gears again a little. We're not going to go back to the slower ballad that we heard in Lover's Cross. The next song is called Age, and it was actually a song written by, you know, Jim and his wife, and it was on their first album, the Jim and Ingrid Croce album. And then it was remade and just, you know, reperformed for this album with Jim's current band. So clearly a song that he had liked. Now, I really see this song as very much like a Gordon Lightfoot song. This, you could, even the tone of his voice, this could be placed right on a Gordon Lightfoot album, and it would fit right in with the types of songs that he sang. Really just straightforward storytelling. I think this was, again, from earlier in his career, a little simpler background music accompaniment with the acoustic guitar, and, you know, talks about someone who is getting older, and they've been up and they've been down, and is starting to learn a little bit about the difference and the things that are the same from people that have been on top and fallen back down to the bottom. So why don't we listen to the beginning of this song, and we can dig a little bit more into it afterwards.
I've been up and down and around and round and back again. Been so many places I can't remember where or when. And my only boss was the clock on the wall, and my only friend never really was a friend at all. I've traded love for pennies, sold my soul for less, lost my ideals in that long tunnel of time. And I've turned it inside out and around, about and back, and then found myself right back where I started again.
Okay, so, you know, we're hearing someone who, you know, right from the beginning talking, they've been up and down and all around. They've been to the top, they've been to the bottom. They talk a little bit about the journey up. Traded love for pennies, sold my soul for less. Kind of an indication that, you know, as they were making their way up, maybe some things they thought twice about or regretted. after they'd gotten to the top, and then some reflections on the way down as well. For someone who once had themselves $1 million and now only got a dime, and what that means. Now, we do hear in this song that they're now on their, he calls it his second circle, but they're on the way back up again. So this conversation that or this thought process that they're having as a part of this song, I think maybe a cautionary tale of let's remember how this went the last time for a couple things. Again, to let's not be selling our soul for pennies as we head back up again. And then remember, no matter how high we get, the higher we get, the fall is just harder. So an anticipation that regardless of how good this feels, we can fall again in this. So kind of just a reflection on life. And as we talked about in the beginning, especially early in Jim Croce's career, there was a lot of back and forth. There was some difficulty. There was some early kind of success, like we might be getting some traction here, and then finding himself having to work odd jobs just to live and get by while he still wanted to be pursuing music, and kind of a back and forth. So I think that there was some up and down, especially in their early life. This song was originally written and performed with his wife. So they seem to be speaking through some experience, but more with small hills and small victories that they'd won and then lost, as opposed to truly getting to the top of the mountain, which, as we've also talked about, Jim was just getting to right before he died. So the up and downs in life, what's the price we're paying to get there? And let's remember, for every up we do, there's a down that is right around the corner. So let's keep that in mind.
No, and I don't disagree with how you've characterized this song, and there's sort of two parts to it. One of them is just, look, you win a few, you lose a few, but you keep on going.
Yeah. Yes.
So just kind of general. So, there's going to be good times, there's going to be bad times. But you keep on going and this and that. But the other aspect is, like you say, it's like, look, now that I've been through this cycle once, let's take what has been learned and not squander too much in furtherance of getting, back to the top or to whatever it is that they're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And what he mentions, I lost my ideals in that long tunnel of time. You're talking about as you get older, you become, less idealistic and sadder but wiser.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, I think age is the title of the song being Age. It definitely suggests that, hopefully with age comes wisdom, and that, you got to go out there and mix it up, put yourself out there, and strive for something if you're going to achieve it. But, don't necessarily put too much of a price tag on your failures or make that be the barometer of your success.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good, you mentioned Gordon Lightfoot. Because this is just a good folk song.
Yeah.
Is really what it is. Just a good folk song.
And it's you can see why he wanted to revisit and re-record this song from very early in his career, at a time when he finally was making it back up to the very top of the mountain. And maybe the kind of the wisdom that they'd put into this song, he was trying to reacquaint himself as he was getting to this point of fame, commercial success, critical success, and that type of thing, that of the likes that he had not achieved yet in his career. So it's like, let's pull this one out of the vault. Let's dust it off. And, this is wisdom I need right now, as well as someone, who's listening to the music. So you can understand why he pulled this one out and put it here, because he was now, getting to a point where things that he needed to be thinking about in this moment to, to stay grounded and keep the kind of attitude that he clearly had about just how seriously he was about himself and his old life. So, I'd agree of just a good, good folk song, a good story to be told. And again, kind of, looking at the progression of this side, going this, starting out with just a very strong, positive, foot tapper, quick moving type song, a very slow and thoughtful ballad, a more kind of, ruckus type,
story
down and
song
out type guy, story song. And then now here with this more of just a thoughtful, a little bit more reflective type of tune before we get into the, the home stretch of the album with the last song.
Yeah. It's a good one. I mean, and that message of, you got to keep on keeping on with, don't, if you got a million one day, enjoy it while it lasts, because it never does.
Exactly. So, and nor does the song last, because we move from here to the fifth and final track of the side, which is another just fun-loving Jim Croce song. And this is right at the top of the heap for, his ability to turn a phrase. And he makes himself look kind of a goofball, but a guy you can understand, right? And this is Working at the Car Wash Blues. The last song. This was a hit. People listening to the radio in the 70s would absolutely have heard this song. It's got a kind of just a happy, kind of knocky feel to it, kind of a bluesy folk song type feel, but a foot tapper as well. And let's listen to the start of it. We're going to listen to the end in a little bit, but let's just listen to the start of it now, and then we'll talk a little bit about what Jim was getting at.
Fair enough.
Well, I had just got out from the county prison doing 90 days for non-support. Tried to find me an executive position, but no matter how smooth I talk, they wouldn't listen to the fact that I was a genius. The man said we got all that we can use. Now I got them steadily depressing, low down mind messing, working at the car wash blues. Well, I shouldn't be sitting in an air-conditioned office in a swivel chair, talking some trash to the secretary, say, hey now mama, come on over here. Instead I'm stuck here rubbing these fenders with a rag and walking home in soggy old shoes with them steadily depressing, low down mind messing, working at the car wash blues.
Okay, a fun one. This is a fun one, and again, this is a guy that's not tooting up what a great guy he is, because he had just got out of the county prison doing 90 days for non-support, right? Been having a little hard time kind of getting my act together here. He comes out and tried to find him an executive position. That was his plan. You can see when he was sitting in the can, he was going to get out and I'm going to get myself an executive position, and it doesn't quite work out for him. It's they wouldn't listen to the fact that I was a genius. The man say we got all that we could use. So he found himself with those steadily depressing, low down mind messing, working at the car wash blues. What a great fun song.
Oh, and this is probably my favorite Jim Croce song of all. Yeah. It's just you can't help tapping your foot and smiling when you listen to this song. And this song would have been right front and center on the Public Defender mixtape.
Yeah.
Because when I worked as a public defender and we represented at that time in child support enforcement cases, people, they were guys, they were men,
Yeah.
Who just weren't paying their child support and this and that. So I mean, I've known and dealt with guys like this.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, more recently, I mean, right before I retired, I was working as a judge, and I was presiding over child support enforcement cases. And in those, what you want to have happen is the person to get a job and start paying their child support. And, in my experience, it was the guys that I dealt with for the most part, they weren't able to keep the job at the car wash.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a executive position, not even on the radar screen. I mean, we're talking, and as you said, you'd have someone in court like, oh yeah, I just got a job at the car wash. Great. Well, let's set this out a couple months and we'll review it. And if you still got the job and are paying, well then, 2 months or whatever go by, they're back in court. And it's like, so, looking at the court minutes here, a couple months ago, you were working at the car wash. How's that going? That didn't work out. Well, why not? Well, I had a personality conflict with the boss.
Yeah.
And then when you ask about the personality conflict is the boss expected this guy to show up when scheduled to work, sober, and willing to work.
Yeah.
That was usually the basis of the personality conflict.
Yes, exactly.
And so this is a little more, not quite as grim as that, and a little more fun, but okay, I had to go to jail for this, but no more. I'm going to go out and take care of it. But
yep,
they wouldn't listen to the fact that I was genius. The man say, we got all that we can use.
Yep.
It's a great song. Great. It's just a great song.
And there's kind of a change up chorus in here, or verse in here that, he says, a man of my ability, he should be smoking on a big cigar. But till I get myself straight, I guess I'll just have to wait in my rubber suit rubbing these cars. It's just really, again, the lyrics here, really well done. They turn phrases great. You very clear, what he's saying as he goes along. And there's a lot going on musically in this. You've got some fiddle in there. You've got some horns that are in there above and beyond the guitar, and so you can kind of sense the hecticness of life for this particular person, but it's fun. It's a fun song. In fact, why don't we're going to listen to towards the end of the song here, including a little bit of a music break, and then how the song finds its way out, and then we'll wrap up when we get back.
Well, all I can do is to shake my head. You might not believe it is true. But working at this end on Niagara Falls, there's a undiscovered Howard Hughes. So baby, don't expect to see me with no double martini and in my highbrow society news. Cause I got them steadily depressing, low down mind messing, working at the car wash blues. To see me with no double martini and in my highbrow society news. Cause I got them steadily depressing, low down mind messing, working at the car wash blues. Yeah, I got them steadily.
So, kind of continuing on, same thing, but I love how it wraps up, and they end up doing it, kind of repeating the last chorus. As he's giving some warning to his woman, who sounds like he's going to, have come to see him or whatever, and, advises her, so baby, don't expect to see me with no double martini in my highbrow society news, because I got them steadily depressing, low down mind messing, working at the car wash blues. It's like, hey, I had these plans. I was going to be smoking cigars, sipping double martinis. Probably had communicated that to everybody in his life, and it just wasn't coming out that way. So here he was scrubbing cars at the local car wash. And the song, the music in this, there's a lot going on that's in there from, in the background. We heard a little bit of that in the musical breaks there. Just a fun song, musically, and very just humorous lyrics, casting a light on, this type of fella that's got a little bit grander plans in mind than are really in the cards.
And the attitude that's expressed in this song in a lot of ways, and here's kind of an actual irony, is that if someone coming out of jail or prison, if more guys coming out of jail or prison had kind of the more happy-go-lucky attitude of this singer, things would probably work out better for them. Because, truth be told, I mean, all kidding aside, it's not easy to, you're in jail for 90 days or you're in prison for a couple of years or whatever it is. When you come out, when you're incarcerated for more than just a couple of days or whatever. But I mean, when you serve a few months or a few years, you come out, you got a lot of times the sort of guys that find themselves in that situation, they got to start from scratch.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. And with court records being public and, if there's any question, he's got a misdemeanor conviction for this or that, or he's got a felony conviction for this or that, and blah, blah, blah. And so it can be a daunting situation for a real person who's in the scenario described by the singer in the song. But sometimes it's as easy as just, finding the job and then showing up on time when you're scheduled, sober, and understanding that your boss expects you to work. If you're able to do those things, a lot of times you'll be able to get by.
Yeah.
And which is what this guy is doing. He's not, perhaps his ambitions outdistance his actual ability, but he's there. He's showing up at the car wash.
Yep.
He
didn't say, well, the only job I can get is the car wash, so fuck that. I mean, he's showing up, he's doing this, and and that, it just with the feel and maybe someday this guy will be sipping double martinis. But for now, nope. He's got them steadily depressing, low down mind messing, working at the car wash blues.
And there are other clients and defendants, that I dealt with over the course of my career, and I was a public defender. I was a private defense attorney. I worked as a prosecutor. I was district attorney for 5 years. I worked as a judge. I mean, so I've seen people from a lot of different perspectives that find themselves before, during, and after they're spending time locked up.
Yeah.
And there are guys who they get some scheme or something going, and it's not strictly legal, and then the house of cards falls apart and they end up going to prison. Well, then, like 3-4 years later, you find they did their time, they're out, and they're back doing something else, where they're not just working at McDonald's or at the car wash. And they're motivated enough to find some way, and then they get into trouble again because it's something that while involves a little industry and a little ambition and initiative, it lands them back in the court system again, and blah 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 blah. But this is the attitude displayed in this song is, you take what you play the cards you're holding.
Yeah.
And the definition of luck is the intersection of preparation and opportunity.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. There's more. This is one of those songs where, the subject matter, you could take a half a dozen different songs that could make this seem like kind of a hang dog, feel sorry for yourself, there's no hope kind of tone. And this song is, just got out of the county prison, but here I am on the street, and I got plans for you, baby. Gonna have to give me some time, but no, it's well, like I say, probably my favorite Jim Croce song of them all, and just a great song, and the sort of song where when he comes back into that chorus, that "'cause I got them steadily," and you can just picture a room of people starting to sing along. It's one of those kind of songs. Great song.
And
great
so,
song.
Really, this side was bookended by, but two of these very, again, maybe not a positive, but a positive feel, right? On these things, and then some interesting twists in between, and it, just made for a great side of music. And whether you're listening to this as you brought up, Mike, I mean, maybe someone who hasn't heard any Jim Croce probably wants to, let's listen to a compilation or that type of thing that's got a lot of stuff. But this particular side he was really running it at full speed here. Side 2 also has some very good material on it, a good album, through and through. But this particular side, just a really classic side from a musician that, got the credit he deserved. Unfortunately, most of it came, after he tragically died in the plane crash. But a great musician, he's got a lot of music. This was absolutely a good album and a good side of music to listen to.
Well, and I know I made that comment about at this particular point in time, we're 50 years down the road, and there may be some different options. But, I mean, this is the sideshow. And in terms of an actual side from a studio album put out by Jim Croce, you really can't do much better than this, because, as I also mentioned, all 5 songs on this side made it onto the greatest hits or the compilation. So I would say that in the context of the type of what we talk about on the sideshow, you really can't do any better than this one for Jim Croce.
Yeah, exactly. So really a very interesting musician, a great album and a great side, and a great conversation, Mike.
Definitely. All right, Mark, we will talk to you next time.